All right, gather around, kids. It's a Monday. That means it's BloodHorse Monday. How about that? A little October.
There you go. I thought you were gonna skip the mentioning that the fact that it was a new month. We always got to start with mentioning what time of year that we are currently in.
I can't believe we're post fall stars Saturday, fall stars weekend.
Fall stars weekend.
Yeah, everything's got a name now. I'm Louie Rabaut. He's Sean Collins. Speaking of names, this is BloodHorse Monday. Thanks for hanging out with us. Busy show coming up for you. Brendan Walsh up first, of course. I don't like having guys on after they have bad weekends, but Brendan agreed to come on anyway.
I know. He only won like 5 races at Keeneland, the grade 1, 2 graded stakes races.
You know what? We'll suffer through it together. Yeah. He'll be up first. We'll talk with Ned Toffey. Good for me. After that, about Ted Noffey, who's different than Ned Toffey.
Oh, I didn't tell you. I actually scheduled with Ted Noffey. We have the horse on today.
Just a lot of neighing together. There you are. And then John Green, friend of the show, will join us from DJ Stable to close out that. It's part of our month-long hanging out with Keeneland. We appreciate them doing that. He'll be part of that November sale. But, of course, the racing going on right now at Keeneland leading up until the Breeders' Cup. Go check them out, of course, wherever you do your wagering. And, of course, Keeneland Select, all the great options over there with our friends at Keeneland. We were just there this weekend. Tons of and I joke about the name of the weekend, Sean, but, of course, Fall Stars Weekend.
The name fits.
It does. I don't know why that's a difficult thing for me to say since I do this like 15 hours a week. But
well, you're getting tired.
Is that what's happening? Yeah. I'm an old man now.
You're starting.
See, this show
you've done this long enough. You're halfway around the far turn. Nitrogen's coming up on your outside, and you're starting to feel, maybe not today. I've done this enough.
He's 10 years old. Isn't it time for him to get off the track? And it's one of those. Yeah, right. Yeah, no, I get it. All right, but we got to be there for one of those moments that I don't know if it's one of those moments yet, Sean, but the Spinster happens. Obviously, we're having Brendan on because of that. The headline, though, isn't the winner sometimes in horse racing. It's the horse that doesn't win. And certainly when you have a horse of the quality of a Thorpedo Anna run fourth in a 5-horse field, there are questions. We get the video last night from Kenny McPeak prior to us filming this about, hey, we're going to check it out. We're going to see what's going on. You and I are of similar opinions about this. We talked about this off air. That let's let it marinate for a couple days here, right? That kind of thing.
But last week we had your overreaction Monday.
Monday, get after it.
And it felt like a lot of people, in my opinion, were
having
overreaction Sunday night.
There it is, yeah. In what way, Sean?
It's just, with some of the video stuff that I do online of A 12, obviously, I posted the video of the race yesterday, and just reading the comments, there's a lot of people, it seems like, of the opinion of as soon as she lost, it was, oh, I can't believe they're still racing her.
Right.
Like she's obviously telling them she wants to be retired. And I'm looking at that and I'm just like, well, obviously they're going to keep racing her. She just won a grade 1. Like, they didn't have any indication going into this race.
I hate to laugh, but yes, that happened. Yes.
They didn't have any indication going into this race that she wouldn't run her best.
We had Kenny on last week. He's never been more confident.
No, and
he should have been.
I saw her at Churchill this week, and I saw her at Keeneland this week training. I saw her multiple times throughout the week. She looked like the same old Thorpedo Anna that we always get to see and that we love, and she felt like it's very possible. And, we've put a lot of expectations on some of these top horses, especially the ones that are as consistent as she is. And we just expect, if there is a bad race in there, that's it. Something must be wrong. Something, she just must not be the same horse. She must not, or like the people were saying online, we have to stop on her. She ran one bad race.
It's interesting.
I do want to go back to the La Tran because, a lot of people have the same opinions. The difference that time, I feel like, there was something you could kind of point to as a possible excuse.
Right. Yep.
And then when she came back as good as she did in the Fleur-de-Lis and the Personal Ensign, you look at that and go, okay, that was probably definitely the excuse. The way that the first turn unfolded in that race, you don't see a clear reason as to why she ran this way.
It does feel different this time.
Maybe she just didn't like being at Keeneland for whatever reason. She hadn't been there since her debut, which a long time ago, not against this quality of horses. Maybe it was just, the pace didn't set up for her. Maybe it was, certain horses. When you have a rider like Brian Hernandez, who's ridden her in every race, right, he knows all the little little things that Thorpedo Anna would do during a race. Maybe there was something that just didn't translate. Flavian Pratt didn't pick up. I'm not to blame Flavian for this. I don't think this was his fault at all. But maybe that's a part of it. That could be a potential
even
reason.
In his interview, he was like, "Yeah, I felt like we had horse, on the backstretch, and we were ready to make that move once we got to the turn. She just didn't go.
Maybe there's something that Brian could have done in that scenario, knowing her, that would have got her to kick in. I'm not saying there is. I'm not blaming Flavian, but that's just maybe it's something like that. So there are a lot of maybes there, frankly. Yes. It was one race. I'm willing to give her the pass and see what happens next. Now, maybe she comes out of the race. It looked like she came out of the race okay last night. Maybe they find something in the next couple of days that explains it. Maybe they decide to stop on her anyway. We are coming up on breeding season next year or in a couple months. Yeah. So good time to stop if you're going to stop.
That's right.
She's got nothing left to prove out there on the racetrack. She's a horse of the year. She's a 7-time grade 1 winner. She's been one of the most consistent.
Say that again.
7-time grade 1 winner, horse of the year, champion 3-year-old filly. One of the most dominant horses within this division that we've seen in my time following.
Is she the first star in the sport post-COVID? Star in the sport, like parading at Churchill Downs on Clark Day.
I would say I'm going to make the argument for Rich Strike, which a lot of horse racing people won't like, but a lot of the general public would have
because of the odds.
Yes, the general public really attached himself to the horse, and that's a whole nother topic we can get on one day about how I think that was horse racing's most failed marketing attempt, is how we just kind of abandoned Rich Strike after the Derby. But anyway, that's for another day. But
I disagree. I think you should go right now.
We don't have enough time for that day. Well, let me know. Let us know in the comments if you want me to go into that for 15-20 minutes on a future episode. But I would say Rich Strike and Thorpedo Anna.
Yeah,
definitely. And now Sovereignty journalism.
Sovereignty definitely has a chance.
Fierceness and Sierra Leone are getting up there. Yep. But I would say definitely for this decade so far post-COVID, I think the two biggest stars in the sport have been, Flightline too.
Flightline was a star, but we saw him so infrequently, and the buzz was there, but it wasn't.
Well, and that's part of why.
It wasn't like Thorpedo Anna. We saw her so often,
and that's why Thorpedo Anna is different than Rich Strike. Is because
that's winning. 7 grade ones to 7 grade ones. She won more grade ones to this point than Flightline ran races.
That is true.
I mean, no, we're talking about a different kind of filly, man. She's different, mare now. I mean, we're talking about a different kind of horse here. She's different, man.
She's got nothing left to prove. So if they decide to retire her, by all means, do it. But I just think,
by the way, not a knock on Flightline. That's not what I was saying. It's not that. But that's how good her record is.
Exactly.
Yes.
But I just think automatically going, I can't believe they're so racing. Like if they come back and decide to go to the Breeders' Cup, I don't want to listen to the next 4 or 5 weeks of people going, "Oh, I can't believe they're still running her." She ran one bad race. This is the first time in her life she ran a bad race without an excuse. Give her a pass.
I think that's a fair way to go. I'm looking up White Barrio's numbers right now. Because I just I want to make like a side-by-side comparison. So he has run 24 times in his life and won 10 of those races.
Yeah.
I think of White Barrio, and I get it. I want to be very clear. He might be a Hall of Famer actually. But just not I don't think we think of him as a superstar all-time kind of horse. This is a horse with 10 wins in 24 starts. And I'm not
a lot of them at very good at the high level.
High level. But I'm not sitting around when he loses thinking, you know what they should do? Let's get out of here. That was ridiculous. Why would they get him off? Why is he on the track at all?
If they did that last year, he wouldn't have come back and won the Pegasus.
He's hit the board in 15 of his 24 races. Should we be mad about the 9?
No.
The answer is no. He's out there. He's running. He's doing the thing. So whatever Kenny, look, it is very clear. It's been clear. And by the way, I think we should stop and pause. And Kenny was on last week. The transparency with which he's handled this horse has been unbelievable.
That's the other,
making her available to everyone that wants to at Saratoga.
And that's the other part of this argument that I don't like either, is when people say stuff like that. Look at who the connections are. Look at how transparent Kenny McPeak has been with her. Even to you think back to the Kentucky Oaks when after she won that race, and she had some kind of was it like a rash or something? She had some kind of physical or health thing coming out of the race because the mud kind of rubbed up on it. I forget exactly what happened, but he was most trainers wouldn't have said a word about that. She would have went into the acorn. You never would have known it had happened. He was very upfront about it right after the race that she was going through that, and it was all cleared up by the time they got to the acorn. He's always, even back into the fall where we all found out she had jaw surgery to remove a little thing in her jaw. Like, we've known everything that's happened with this horse for her entire career. You look at like her breeder, Judy Hicks, who raised her. She's still involved. She's very much active with everything Thorpedo Anna does. She's got the right people, and the people who know if the time comes, we're not going to push her. Right. So I don't like seeing all this talk online about how, oh, I can't believe they're still running her, or if they go to the Breeders' Cup still. If I don't want to deal with that conversation for the next couple of weeks, because one bad race, if she runs another clunker in her next race, then I'll start thinking, all right, maybe it is time for her to go. But I give her a pass on this one. She's allowed to have a bad day. Everybody's allowed to have a bad day.
Sometimes those 5-horse fields set up for weird races too. Like small fields can make for strange races. Jin Jin does get the win. We'll talk with trainer Brendan Walsh about her. Fast fractions, did all the work up front, still held on to win. That was a serious run. If she can turn around and do that at Del Mar on that short stretch, Del Mar, look out in the distaff. Yeah. Seriously,
she's a legitimate threat.
I think he's got two. And we're gonna talk. Yep. We're gonna ask him about Clicquot, and you and I were there, and I'm sure people on this show and other shows are tired of it. But after the Indiana Oaks, she was so professional. You could have lit a firecracker off in that winter circle. Nothing would have happened. She would have been fine. I mean, she's unbelievable. And so when I saw her in the cotillion, I was like, that's my horse. We're done here.
Yeah.
Thank goodness. Thank goodness, that was my thought. And so last Brendan about her as well. Do you have any kind of, thoughts about this distaff field now that we've seen, Jin Jin get this win? Nitrogen was right there. I think Nitrogen's really set up to do well in the
Well, I think what we definitely learned is that the distaff's going to be wide open. Everything that we've seen from the 3-year-old filly division, and now with Thorpedo Anna getting beat this weekend, it's completely wide open going into this. And fortunately for our guest who's about to join us here, Brendan Walsh, he's got 2 of the hot horses going into the race right now. Very, very good duo that pointing towards California.
Not a bad problem to have for sure. Joins us back here on the show though, trainer Brendan Walsh. Where are you, Brendan? What are you up to today?
I'm at Churchill.
Okay.
Just trying to catch up after a busy weekend. So
did anything fun happen over your weekend? Anything good?
It's a couple of small little things, but no, it was a great weekend for sure. They're the ones that you dream about, really. So it was great. It was great. Horses all ran well, so seemed like they came back in good shape. So on to the next one.
Yeah, so you get Jin Jin's performance there in the Spinster. We were just talking about it prior to you jumping on, and we do appreciate you joining us here on BloodHorse Monday. That run at Keeneland, we see the early fractions, Brendan, and I got to know what was going through your mind when you see that half mile as quickly as she had gone through. But look, she does the work up front, does it all the way through. What were you thinking during the race? And you got to be really proud afterward.
Yeah, I mean, I told Louie before the race to be, assertive with her and to go forward. And I said, look, if you go to the lead, that's fine. If somebody wants to go faster, we weren't going to be too far away. I told him to ride her very similar to what Jose rode her when she won the Double Dog Dare in the spring. Because I knew she'd be game. I did, of course, see the half mile fraction. I was like, God, they are going a tick quick, all right, but hats off to the mare. She dug in when everybody came to her, and she kept finding. And I wasn't. I mean, when you're in against fillies like Nitrogen and Thorpedo Anna, it's very tough. But I wasn't totally surprised because she was in really, really good form going into it. And when she's on song, she's pretty good filly, and she's not going to let them buy that easy.
Correct me if I'm wrong here. I believe that Double Dog Dare was the first race she ran for you, right? She was with Brad Cox beforehand.
It was, Sean. Yeah. She had just come to me before that. I didn't actually have her that long, and we didn't work her an awful lot, and we kind of learned from it. We tried to replicate it as best we could this year in the fall. We targeted this race quite a while back because she obviously loves Keeneland. She ran a couple of decent races in Churchill in the spring too, but she really showed an affinity for Keeneland. So, you know, she kind of went downhill a little bit physically after the 2 races at Churchill, and we said we'd give her a little time. We brought her to Saratoga, got her back doing good again, and targeted this, and you know, we worked her. I think we worked her like 5 times going into this. We didn't overwork her whatsoever, and it paid off. So yeah, it was great.
And you mentioned kind of giving her that break, but is it also just as the months went on, you guys kind of started to figure her out a little bit more, kind of get more acquainted with her, and that could have helped lead to the big performance she had on Saturday?
I mean, probably she's probably a filly that doesn't need, you know, she doesn't seem to thrive on too much work slash racing. I think the, you know, less is better with her, and you know, it's nice that she's doing what she's done for us. I mean, she's won a grade 2 and now a grade 1 as well. So it's great. I was joking yesterday. Maybe we should keep her in training for next year as well, and have a shot at the Breeders' Cup at Keeneland with her.
I was going to ask that. He's Trainer Brendan Walsh. He's here with us here on BloodHorse Monday. Louie, Rabaut, Sean Collins, hanging out with you. Not the end of the spoils for you this weekend at Keeneland. Imaginationthelady wins the Jessamine in an absolutely loaded field. Brendan, you had to be thrilled with her performance on Saturday.
Thrilled with her, yeah. You know, she's one. She's probably just going to get better and better physically. She's a good sized filly, and she's got bags of scope, so she's probably going to be a nicer 3-year-old than anything. But you know, she won first time at Kentucky Downs, and she had been working good going into it. We did like her, and I didn't think she was without a chance on Friday. It was a good field of fillies, or at least it appeared to be. And she did it really well. I thought Frankie gave her a great ride, you know, and it played out really well for her. But I think she's a filly that's headed in the right direction as well.
We hear all the time with Kentucky Downs, you know, just kind of the way that the track is configured and set up down there, that some horses that run well there, sometimes it doesn't translate to other tracks. Was that ever a concern with you for her, or was she one you always thought could just handle whatever's thrown at her?
I think she was athletic enough, Sean, to handle Kentucky Downs, which I think they need to be, especially first time with no experience. It can be a tough place to go first time, but we did it. She was ready to run, so we said we'd take a shot at it. But I do think it does, you know, if things go right there and they handle it, I think it proves very beneficial after, because you know it's they get unbalanced down there. It's a tough track to run on, and I think when they get back to a more orthodox track, I think they really benefit from it. You know.
What do you think her next step is at this point? Is a trip to Del Mar on the schedule?
I think it has to be, Louis. You know, I think we have to look at it anyway. If she's doing well, she seems like she came out of the race the other day. Listen, we won't know for a while yet until she goes back training, but she looks like she came out of it really good. And if she did, then we'd nearly have to take a shot. I would think she'd be one of the favorites in that spot if she goes. You know.
Yeah, hopefully they don't ship Lake Victoria for a juvenile race again. We're going
Yeah, them Irish need to stay at home.
Be good for our trainer Brendan Walsh here for sure. You did have some other 2-year-old winners on the weekend, including Bella Ballerina on Sunday. On debut, we were all waiting for that one, and boy, she did not disappoint.
Yeah, she actually surprised us as well. I mean, we liked her, don't get me wrong, but I thought the fashion she did it in was super impressive. You know, Tyler said he was loaded the whole way around there. You know, she's obviously a sister to Pretty Mischievous, and she seems like she shows all the hallmarks of her sister as well. This one's a little more trickier mentally. She's a little trickier, but I think a race will have helped her a lot yesterday, as much for the mental side than anything. But she's a nice prospect for the future going forward. You know, she should be a really nice filly.
How exciting is that for you when you get a sibling of, you know, one of the stars that you had previously trained, especially when they come out and win like that first time? Just how much excitement does that give you for what her career could be?
It's great, Sean, because I've had 3 of them now. I had Pretty Mischievous. We have a useful filly as well, and Pretty Sassy, that came in between. She's a Medaglia d'Oro, and of course, you know, so it's nice when you get them families. I mean, there's always a chance of another real good one. I know a lot of the mares, most of the time probably only get one, but you see some of them will get a second one as well, and this mare just seems like she keeps producing and producing. So it's great. It's one of the great benefits of training for somebody like Godolphin. You know, there's ones like that around the corner every year, and it's just great to have that resource, you know.
Definitely helps knowing the good year that they've had this year, that breeding program is definitely churning out some good horses. But on Friday, aside from the Jessamine, you had a pretty good day. You had horses in 3 different races. You won all 3 of them. And one race that you had multiple horses in, you ran first and third in that. So a pretty good day there. But tell us a little bit about your 2 winners on Friday, Turner's Charm and Raiding Party, both 2-year-old winners as well.
Yeah, again, Sean, you know, Turner's Charm ran a really nice race at Kentucky Downs too. You know, she ran very well. I had Trust Account in there too, who we rate very highly. Trust Account got in a little trouble going into the first turn and got shuffled way back. But she came with a very nice run at the end of the race, and she's probably a filly that's, I think she's going to be a hell of a 3-year-old. Turner's Charm, like I said, ran very well first time out, and you know, we were very, very pleased with her. And then the filly in the last, I thought I was amazed actually the price she was, because she'd been working really well. I couldn't believe it, the price she was, because she'd been working as good as you know, right up there with the others, if not as good as them. So I was not surprised in the least by the fashion that she won in.
So you have a Jinjin win the Spinster a couple of weeks ago. Clicquot went and won the Grade 1 Cotillion at Parks. Brendan, after the Indiana Oaks, believe it or not, I went out of my way to go find you, and you were having I think it was Herradura was doing a tequila toast after all of the winners.
Shots. Yeah, I was in
there you go. Okay. And so while Brendan got to enjoy the tequila, I'm a professional. I have to. Yeah, this is BloodHorse, people. You know, this is serious. This is serious. But I said to you, boy, she's a real pro. And I saw in your face, Brendan, you think a lot of this filly, and she showed it in the Cotillion for sure. Tell us next steps with her, and man, how proud of you of her, because I was so taken by her in the winner's circle, Brendan, for example. All the activity, all the people didn't affect her at all. She is just such a pro.
Yeah, it's amazing, Louie. You know, she's unbelievable. She was the same at Parks. I mean, she's just a natural talent. You know, Donato Lani sent her into me last year in around this time last year, and he told me this is a nice filly, and of course, you know, you get them, and yeah, she's a nice physical, and has always been very good mentally, but you know, her work's been good. She's just gotten better and better as the years gone on. I mean, nothing phases her. She just seems like she's top class. And you know, as she's been going along through the year, I've been thinking, God, this filly is very, very good. She's gotten better and better, and you know, we had the confidence to try her in the Grade 1 off the back of the Indiana Oaks, and you know, she, like that Cotillion was a tough race. I mean, there was 3 Grade 1 winners in there, and she beat them. But you know, she instills confidence in you. It's, you know, she's got a great mind and everything, and all the hallmarks of a good horse. So I think, you know, obviously we're going to take a shot at the distaff with her, but I think next year, you know, she's going to be a better filly again. So really looking forward to her going forward.
Now, on this show, we have, you know, a lot of people who definitely follow racing year round, but we also have quite a few people that are watching, maybe just getting into racing for the first time. You have these 2 really good fillies in Jinjin and in Clicquot going into the same race here, the Breeders' Cup Distaff. Just explain for them, how do you balance kind of having multiple horses in the same race at that level, and especially for different owners?
Well, first of all, it's nice to have.
It's a good problem.
Yeah, it's a good problem to have.
Any amount of them, yeah. You know, if I had another one, I'd take that too.
You want all 14 in the field, right?
Yeah. No, I think, you know, you just go ahead and you train them. You know, we like to train them as they are, and what they, you know, like we said earlier on with Jinjin, she's not you know, she doesn't do a ton of work, and she seemed less is more with her. So we'll just take her easy along. I mean, she's obviously very fit. You've only got 3.5 weeks, going into it. So we won't overdo anything there. And Clicko kind of goes through it as well, and she's very she's very straightforward too. So you just try to train them for themselves, and that they'll show up on the day and give their best performance. I wouldn't worry. One of them isn't going to influence what we do with the other one. You just do the best you can for each one, and hopefully they'll dead heat on the day.
That's what I was just about to say. Hopefully it would be a dead heat at the
I love
end,
that
right?
heat, actually.
Yeah.
Brendan, I wanted to ask you about another horse in your barn, and I feel like today is a good day for this question because it's going to bring up a moment that I imagine at the time Brendan was not happy about.
Okay.
And it's another Keeneland winner. His name is Gosger, and it's a horse that I've really come to enjoy watching run. And I was there at the Haskell, and your shrug after journalism took over the lead in the show, and just like, what else can we do here? Was one of the all-time moments for me this year. How is he doing? And I mean, do you sometimes just look at those? Have you watched those replays to just wonder how the heck he doesn't have a grade 1 win yet?
Yeah, I mean,
Unbelievable.
he was very unlucky between that and the Preakness. I mean, there were two tough beats. The Preakness, I think, in particular, because what happened behind him, and 99 times out of 100 your horse clears like that, they just don't catch him, and it wasn't as though he was stopping either. He wasn't dead on his feet, he was running. So that was disappointing. The Haskell, he ran a better race in the Haskell, and I mean, it's tough to take it, but then you get a race like yesterday with Gin, and you come out on the right side of that, they tend to balance themselves out. But it was tough for them, but he's doing good. He didn't run much of a race in the PA Derby. I don't think he liked the track, Louie. Parks can be a funny track. Some horses like it, some horses don't. He came out of it great. We actually worked him on Saturday. Okay. And he's been doing great. So we're probably going to take a good look at the Fayette at the end of Keeneland with him. I don't really see any point in stopping and giving him bags of time if the horse is doing really well. I think we should roll on and try and get another. We know he likes Keeneland. So it might be a good opportunity to maybe win a race with it. We'll take a look at the noms when they come out anyway, and we'll consider it. And if we don't do that, we'll find something else again. But the horse is doing good, and he's finally to come together physically. So I'm inclined to just draw a line through the Parks race and roll on with him.
Looking for more success at Keeneland this weekend. You got Lush Lips in the QE2, San Siro in the Sycamore, Pondering in the Franklin. Are you going to pull off another big weekend and be back on the show again next week?
I don't know, Sean. It'd be nice if we could, but no, they're all doing good. It's it's like with Bella yesterday. You go through phases in the year. My 2-year-old fillies this year, they're behind because I think we had such a hot summer. We were going to run Bella at Ellis, and she came back. I think she came back with a bunch of mucus one day or something after work, and I had a good few of the babies this year. It was kind of tough on them, the heat. So they're a little behind. They're starting to come to hand now. Thus, we had them few nice maidens over the weekend. But the horses are in good form, is what I'm trying to say, and the older ones too are running well. Lush Lips is doing great. She's been working good, so looking forward to her. Pondering again, and San Siro is a little, he's a nice horse, needs plenty distance. I ran him in that 2 1/4 mile race at Kentucky Downs, and he actually ran really well. He just the last quarter of a mile caught him out. So I think he's in there a little sneaky on Friday.
I'm going to guess that Brendan knows the answer to this. Do you know the two teams that play at San Siro?
Yes, of course. AC and Enter, yeah. Yeah, no.
Milan, dog. Come on now, baby. Get your soccer stuff together. You can talk to Brendan Walsh. What are we doing?
I know you're gonna have to start teaching me soccer on the backstretch now.
I'm a big soccer fan. Outside of racing, it's about the only thing I watch. So
no hurling at all. There you go. All right.
Well, a bit of hurling too, but that's got its time of year. But no, for sure.
By the way, if you hate someone, tell them to go play hurling. That's my advice to you. It's a good one. Jay's laughing. He gets it. All right. Brendan, oh, man. All right. We'll get back to it, Brendan. We appreciate you jumping on the show. I'm sure we'll be catching up soon.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks,
Yep,
Brandon.
thank you,
Appreciate
Brendan.
it. Brendan Walsh. There you go. As good a weekend at Keeneland as you can have.
Yeah.
There you go.
Pretty impressive.
There you go. I wish I had something to add. Other than I will say, boy, like top 5 personal moment in horse racing this year was his reaction after the Haskell.
I know. It's just what
else can he do? It just threw his heart. Like, what else can this guy do to not win a grade 1? I mean, it's unbelievable. So no, the exciting part about who Brendan has in his barn right now is so many of them he's already talking about, okay, this is what we're doing in the spring and that kind of thing, like forecasting forward. A horse like Oscar, he mentioned the Fayette and he said, yeah, he likes Keeneland and that kind of stuff. Makes total sense. Clark's right there.
Yep.
The Cigar Mile is right there. I mean, there are so many races for a horse of his quality to be able to try to jump up and get into. Frankly, with what he did in the Lexington, which is over that shorter stretch, I think a race like the Cigar Mile might be perfect. So he could go Fayette if he's still training well, go run in the Cigar Mile. I mean, I think Brendan was very clear. That part I appreciated, especially where he was like, if he's in form, he's going to run. Why would I give him a bucket of time off? I think there's a term he used, right? And so I appreciate that part as well. But there you go. Brendan, of course, is 5 wins on the weekend, dude.
I know. It's incredible.
And Jin, of course. But again, I want to thank our friends at Keeneland for hanging out with us on this episode. It is Keeneland, and it is the world's marketplace. The championship sale is Wednesday, October 29th in the Del Mar paddock. And the Keeneland November breeding stock sale begins Tuesday, November 4th. You can learn more, of course, at Keeneland.com. You'll hear later in the show from a friend, John Green, who will be involved in the sale there in November as well. And so we'll get you up to date on all of the great action with our friends at Keeneland and Keeneland Racecourse. Of course, man, it's going to be very difficult for them to match this week of racing, which they won't because they just won't have the graded stakes.
Yeah, there's not as many graded stakes.
But you just mentioned 3 horses there out of Brendan's barn that are going to be in races that I'm very much looking forward to. So, I mean,
it's going to be another good weekend this weekend. These are, the QE2, the Franklin and the Sycamore.
Yep.
A lot of times, these are kind of the races for horses that don't really have a Breeders' Cup division. And so like you think about the filly and mare turf sprinters, you have to run against the boys if you're going to run in the Breeders' Cup.
Yep.
But if you don't want to do that, the Franklin is kind of your end of the year big race that you kind of target for. So this is always a good weekend of racing here as well.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks to Brendan Walsh, of course, for joining us here on BloodHorse Monday. Sean Collins, Louie Rabaut, hanging out with you. One of the best winners over the weekend, of course, was a horse named Ted Noffey. We're really pleased to welcome in his namesake. His name is Ned Toffey. He's over there at Spendthrift. He is the GM on the grounds there. Has been there for Ned. Have you? Yes, Ned. I got it. Oh my gosh, I got it. Ned, have you thought about the fact that you've been there for a couple of decades? Thanks for joining us. How are you?
Thank you for having me. Yeah, it's been a while now. It's actually we're 21 years. So yeah, it's we've been here for a bit, but it's a great place to be. Wouldn't trade places with anybody.
Seems long enough that you've been there for them to finally name a horse after you, right?
Well, it did take a misprint to make it happen, but yeah. So and Eric Gustafson does a great job with the names, and he has a lot of fun with it. He does a lot of show business, music, comedy references, and so he got a big kick out of this opportunity, and it's fun because people seem to embrace it. People are having fun with it, and I think that's a good thing.
Yeah. Well, just for those who maybe haven't heard the story of how Ted Noffey got his name of that misprint, go ahead and just give us the quick little rundown on how that came to be.
So should I tell you who did the misprint, or do you guys?
Well, you know what? Instead of telling us who did that misprint, how about give me a moment here if you're watching us on YouTube or Spotify.
Watching some live work here, yes. Go ahead.
There it is.
There it is.
There it is.
What I like about this, by the way, Ned, is that this has already been up for an hour by the time the screenshot is taken. That's my favorite part.
That's funny. I the funny thing is I had a friend text me and say, and I did not know that this tweet had gone out. So I had zero context. And this is months before the horse had been named. And he texted me, said, can we name a horse Ted Noffey? And I hope this doesn't get bleeped, but I responded by text, "Nuck foe." And yeah, so my kids, they got a hold of the tweet and sent it to Eric Gustafson, who is one of the owners of Spendthrift, along with his wife Tamara. And Eric obviously said to himself, "I know what to do with this." He sat on it for several months, and it wasn't until, I mean, I think this happened in, I want to say February or March, and it was, I think, June or July before he named the horse. And it's very difficult when you name a horse. You want to pick out a good one so you and give it a good name. Well, very often the ones that we think are going to be good are not the ones that turn out to be turn out to be good. So I think this was just simply kind of luck of the draw, and it's worked out that he's a really nice horse. So yeah, but I was just checking workouts one morning, and there was Ted Noffey having worked 47 and change, and I thought, oh goodness, here we go. So
So that'll be the one workout that'll always stand out in your mind. You'll remember that.
Exactly.
But for those that are only listening to us and are not watching us on the screen, so this was a post advertising the magazine, which, by the way, subscribe to the BloodHorse magazine. We'll have that QR code on later in the show. But in the post, we had done a feature on you for winning Farm Manager of the Year last year.
Right.
And in the post, it accidentally said Ted Noffey Farm Manager of the Year instead of Ned Toffey. Just since I am the one BloodHorse writer on the show here, I just want to point out I had no involvement with this at all.
You take full responsibility for someone else's sins.
And I will also say we have an updated proofing process for these tweets.
In your defense, just since this horse has won, there are several other publications that have gotten this wrong. So the horse has been referred to as Ned Toffey, and he's also been referred to as Ted Toffey. So you guys are not alone. So people are now thoroughly confused.
Yes, you should have heard Louie before we started the show.
Oh my
today.
gosh, man, I was a mess, man.
But moving on from the name, just tell us about this horse. When did he really kind of come onto the radar of kind of being that one that you guys were kind of keyed in on to being one of your top 2-year-olds this year?
Yeah, it's funny. So I don't know if I can really name a time. Maybe it's when he crossed the finish line in the hopeful, but I will say, going back to when we saw him at TaylorMade Farm prior to the September sale, we'll go around and look at horses at some of the different, the larger farms, larger consigners. And we saw him at the farm, and I remember thinking, like, is this horse just too obvious? He's such a big, nice looking horse. That's certainly no guarantee that they're going to run. When he was down in Ocala at King's Equine, Raul Reyes broke him, did a wonderful job. Every time we saw him, he looked the part. He was handling everything. Everything came easy to him. He moved nicely on the track. When he breezed, he breezed really well. But still, at that point, they're only doing an eighth of a mile, a quarter of a mile. Maybe at the very end, they do an easy 3/8 before they go out to the trainer. So it's still really not enough to tell. But I think there's been no point in the process where we had any real reservations about him. And when this horse did start to get serious in his works, going a little farther for Todd, that we really began to feel like, hey, this might be a pretty nice horse. And Todd was pretty complimentary of him. But, Todd, he's gonna be, pretty low key, pretty reserved about things. And I think he'd be the first to tell you, you just never know till they get in a race and do it. Just nobody really knows. So I think we always saw the right things. And, I guess this is, part of the beauty of this game is you get excited about these horses. But we really didn't know. We thought we had a solid horse. He ran really, really well. There were some highly touted horses, including a very expensive Into Mischief that we got outbid on at the 2-year-old sales that were in his first start. So, we thought he was in pretty tough, and he ran so well, and then ran even better in the hopeful, and then passed the 2-turn test here at Keeneland this weekend. So I wish I could tell you there was a specific time, but it's never has done anything wrong, and has just continued to do things the right way. So
Ned Toffey with us. He's the general manager at Spendthrift Farm. Ted Noffey now, the only 2-time Grade 1 winning 2-year-old in the country. Take us back, Ned, after the hopeful win. I think in racing, we especially with what we do, we see the jocks, we see the trainers, we're at the barn, but we forget that farm aspect of things. Is there a bit of just a better mood the next day after a race like that?
there really is. And the naming stuff is fun, but aside from that, look, these are the kinds of horses we're hoping for.
Yeah.
And, this is a tough game, and us and plenty of other outfits spend, you know, any amounts of money on horses, and many of them don't work out. I mean, it's kind of the nature of this game. And so, it's easy to buy some really nice, what you think are really nice horses, and not have them pan out. And so when they do, it's really gratifying. And this is the kind that we're looking for. It's a son, well-bred, good-looking son of Into Mischief. And so it's really exciting, because our goal is to get something to our breeding shed, either in our stallion barn or in our broodmare band. And so when you can begin to see that plan coming together, it's very gratifying, and it puts a little extra spring in your step, it's really a good feeling, and everybody's embraced it and having fun with it. So, but look, it's very expensive to buy stallion prospects these days. So the prospect of having one that we don't have to go out and write a big check for is really nice.
Well, you mentioned it's a tough game, but Spendthrift was making it look easy all weekend here at Keeneland. In addition to Ted Noffey on Saturday, you guys won 3 of the first 4 races on the card. And then on Friday, you also had, of course, Tommy Joe, your Spinaway Stakes winner. She finished second across the wire in the Alcibiades, but she won via disqualification, as there was Percy's bar came out and bumped into her in the stretch. Just what did you guys take away from her performance in the Alcibiades, her first time stretching out the 2 turns?
Yeah, my impression was that she probably didn't handle the whole thing quite as well as Ted Noffey did. He rated beautifully and just sat until Johnny asked him to go, and then he went and kind of did his thing. I think the 2-turn thing. She's a strong-willed filly, and she's aggressive, and I think going around and coming out of that first turn, she just didn't settle quite as well as she has when she sprinted. And so I think it was definitely a learning process for her. And I think that took away from some of her punch at the end of the race. And and take nothing away from Percy's bar. She ran a heck of a race.
Yep.
And I give her all the credit in the world. I try to look at that whole thing as unbiasedly as I can, which is obviously impossible. But I think you have to say that whether you think Tommy Joe is going to get by or not, I think when a horse comes out that much and causes that much interference, I think sort of all bets are off, and you just have to say, look, that's too much. That's the way I see it. Then again, like I said, I am a little biased. So, but I think, what I hope is moving forward, that she learned something from that race. She got something out of that race, and she'll be ready to move forward to the Breeders' Cup.
Yeah, well, both these races for both Ted Noffey and for Tommy Joe were winning your ins for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile and the Juvenile Fillies. Obviously, thinking ahead that far to Del Mar, just what do you think of taking them out there to California and participating on that stage?
Yeah, and the other thing I'll say about the race this weekend, that's not the way any of us want to get, win a race and get a it's nice. It's a second grade one. That's wonderful stuff. Not the way any of us, want to win things, but at the same time, we'll take it. As far as heading out to the Breeders' Cup, really excited about that, to go out there with what we think is a pretty good hand. She and Ted Noffey will both go back up to Saratoga and prepare up there with Todd and the rest of his contingent, and then ship out, closer to the race. And really looking forward. I think they're both horses that they're going to run into it. Look, it's the Breeders' Cup. It's supposed to be a tough group, and they're both going to run into some really, really good horses. It's nice that they've both passed the 2-turn test. Feel a little bit better, as I said, about the way Ted Noffey did it. But she ran a really good race as well, and so we're looking forward to that. But again, the test gets a little tougher still out there, and but it's a championship day, so it ought to be. And fingers crossed. But they've got to do everything right. They've got to ship back home. They've got to come out of it. Early indications they both come out of the races really well. So hopefully that continues through their preparation right up to the race, and keep our fingers crossed.
It's amazing a horse ever gets to the starting gate. I'll tell you what, there's so much involved behind the scenes, guys like Ned. It's amazing, Ned. It really is. I'm not kidding.
There's a lot of ways to get beat in this game. And again, that's why you've got to enjoy this when things do get well, because it's, there's all those little obstacles out there. And when it all comes together and all goes right, it's, you better enjoy it, because there's plenty of times where, things just don't fall into place. So
I want to make a Firenze Fire joke here with Yalpone's progeny now winning here, and thinking about, stretch runs between sprinters and those kinds of things. Only a joke for me? We're doing that? Okay, just checking. But you did get one of those in local knowledge winning over the weekend. Any notes on her?
I was really impressed with that race. To be going 6 furlongs, it's not a short run to the first turn, but not as long as obviously if it was, say, 7. And he broke out in the 12 hole, broke badly. And so he had some ground to make up. And, Dylan felt like he had to make a move a little early when he did, and really accelerated and got around some horses that maybe were running a little bit green, put himself in a good spot, and then hit the cruise control, and I think gave the horse a little breather. And so the horse got a little breather around the turn, and then responded when he asked him, turning for home. And I think for a 2-year-old in their first start to do that is really impressive. There was I think it was a 3-year-old allowance race, maybe it was the next race, and these colts went like a full second faster. And so to be wide, to break badly, and then finish up the way that it did, I thought was really, really impressive. And so I think look for some good things to come from him.
Well, not only was it a good weekend at Keeneland for you guys, but also a great weekend out there at Santa Anita. You had 2 homebreds win grade 3s out there. Tamara taking the Chillingworth, and Brave Deb winning the Surfer Girl last night. Let's just start with Tamara. First start in 11 months, daughter of Beholder, a daughter of Bolt d'Oro. Just how exciting is that to see her back at the races?
Well, it's been a long road, and she's had her share of issues, but we've got everything squared away, and time is seldom a bad thing for a horse, and I think this additional time has really done wonders for her. And I think from 2 to 3, she was in a classmate of Copian's, and Copian's a filly that really grew up and got bigger and matured from 2 to 3, and Tamara, I don't know that she did that quite as well as Copian did. And in addition to having just some nagging issues that caused the delays. And so again, this extra time she finally really has. She's probably more filled out than grown up, but she has grown up and filled out well, and she is doing really, really well. And Richard's been very, very happy with her in her training. I don't know, there's a lot of really good fillies that would be eligible for the filly and mare sprint. So hopefully that race is going to be enough to get her in. I don't know if it will or not, but she certainly, she came out of that with a 95 buyer. She looked the part, and she loves Del Mar. So I would be really excited about her chances. And the only unfortunate thing is may have to compete with ourselves with Copian. But there's also, with all due respect to there's a bunch of other very nice fillies that'll be in that group. Not the least of which is Praying. I'll get a little plug for Vacoma. Had Praying had won very nicely out of Keeneland this weekend, and she would be in there as well. So but it's great to have Tamara back and doing what we've felt like she was capable of doing now. So long road back, but that's Richard's forte, and Richard's so good. He's patient. Yeah, he does the right thing, and we have the ownership at Spendthrift, just as Mr. Hughes, his daughter and son-in-law, Tammy and Eric, they are going to put the horse first. We're going to do the right thing by the horse. We're going to give them the time. And, it's the old saying, you take care of the horse and the horse will take care of you. And so and excited about her going forward.
And Brave Deb also, I'm assuming, probably raced her way in the Breeders' Cup talks for you guys as well for the surf with the win.
I think so. And I will say that was all worth it just to see Richard Mandela on a surfboard. So,
oh yeah, I love seeing that picture.
If nothing else was accomplished, we've got that out of the race. But no, this is a homebred filly by Authentic, and Authentic had a great weekend too. One of the stakes races where we didn't win or place was the Frisette, and we ran fourth in there with a filly that we're partners with Mike Rapoli, a filly named Steer Clear.
Yep.
And and Authentic captured that one, that grade one, and a Matoli was second. So that's how good a weekend it was. Even when we didn't win, we made out okay. So yeah, Authentic, huge weekend too, with two graded stakes winners. But Brave Deb, she's now 2 for 2. Ran a heck of a race in her first start. Came out of that, worked lights out since that race. Almost too good. I was a little afraid she'd done too much, but Richard said everything she did, she did so easily. And he felt like she was just playing out there on the front end. So that was really an impressive race and really a fun way to cap off the weekend.
See, the stallion power is just so good there. Even when you're losing, you're winning. That's what it seemed like this weekend.
Well, sometimes we, fortunately this weekend we didn't have to fall back on that much. But when our own runners do get beat, oftentimes there's that consolation that it's one of our offspring of one of our sires that beat them, and so that's always the fallback. So.
Ned Toffey with us from Spendthrift. We'll get you out of here on this. Can you pull up that tweet again, or Facebook, whatever that was from, that social media post for me? Because Ned, lost in this is your farm manager of the year. Like, this is totally lost in this. Is that accomplishment? And look, I don't know your schedule, but I can probably guess it. And the alarm clock is earlier than mine. It is longer hours, almost certainly, than I work. Did you allow yourself to stop and celebrate being farm manager of the year? Because look, these are, you're in a business where, and I love your enthusiasm. Obviously you love this, but the hours are long. The work is difficult. Did you allow yourself at least to enjoy that moment?
Yeah, no, that was very nice. My family was able to be there, and a lot of people who have helped me get to where I am, been influences on me in my career, have been sources of mentorship, great advice, all of those things that some of them are past winners of that award.
Okay.
And that's kind of an award of your peers. those are all really, really nice things. So it was an opportunity for me to be able to get up and thank a lot of those people that have had, again, whether they were some of the people I've worked for or just given me advice over the years. And so it was a nice opportunity to get up and thank a lot of them. But I will say you missed the point on that post, because the best part of that was that the horse right there, we bred, and we did sell him for not very much money, but we did breed him. So we bred White Avario.
You're darn right.
And it was a pretty nondescript into mischief filly, wasn't much of a runner. And we had a horse named Race Day. He was standing for $7,500 at the time. And we said, okay, well, this is a filly that didn't do much on the track, but she's a daughter of into mischief, and it'd be useful for supporting some of our young stallions. And that's what we did. And, a Breeders' Cup and a Whitney and a Pegasus later,
If you're not winning, there it is, Spendthrift.
that worked out pretty well too. So we'll ignore the fact that we sold them for not very much money, but
it's bragging.
So anyway, being at Spendthrift, we have, we're very fortunate to have the resources we have, and that obviously makes things a lot easier. But what's best is the people, the ownership, such high quality people, and do things the right way. And we've been able to put together a great team here. So that's, I felt like this weekend was, hopefully there's more great things to come. I don't know that we'll ever be able to replicate this past weekend, but I felt like that was, the manifestation of so much of the good things that have gone on over here over the last 21 years. So that was a lot of fun.
Well, Ned, we appreciate you jumping on very much. Ned Toffey from over there at Spendthrift. I'm sure we will see all of your great runners out there at Del Mar in just a couple of weeks, but safe trips for everybody, and certainly safe transport back and forth to New York and out to California as well.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ned. There you go. Ned Toffey joined us here on BloodHorse Monday. Appreciate him jumping in from his perch there at Spendthrift. How about that?
Yeah.
Not a bad weekend.
Not a bad weekend at all.
We should put up a poll, honestly. Who had a better weekend? Spendthrift or Brendan Walsh? Just put it up, see what people think. Just do it, because I think
we can do that on Spotify.
What an absolutely absurd weekend for both. But no, I love these kinds of interviews too, Sean, because in the spring, for example, and he's not a farm manager at all, but we had Michael Banahan on.
Mm-hmm.
And when I asked him about, down the Godolphin thing, like, what's that like? What is, how does it, the farm, and, it's like just lit up, right? You get to add Ned. Yes, Ned, the day after a big race, you get back, after the hopeful or something. Is there a different energy? Oh yeah, there's different. That's awesome. It's the best stuff, right? Because
we never get to hear that part.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And that we're just not at the farms the way that, some folks are. I love those kinds of stories. It's a reminder that all of the different levels of racing, people have a level of ownership of these horses.
Yeah.
Right. Because they're if you work at the farm or whatever else. And so just the cool stuff, the great stuff there. And I love how he describes that moment of seeing him the first time. Yeah. Like, is this just too obvious? Right. We all have that moment once in a while, right? Where we see a horse and we're like, that's it. That's done. We're going to do it. And so I appreciate Ned for sure jumping on the program that way. A reminder too that this episode is presented by our friends at Keeneland, the world's marketplace. The Keeneland Championship sale is Wednesday, October 29th in the Del Mar paddock, and the Keeneland November breeding stock sale begins Tuesday, November 4th. You can learn more at Keeneland.com. Go check them out. Of course, someone who will be at the Keeneland sale coming up here is John Green, DJ Stable, all the things. We'll talk to him next here on BloodHorse Monday. All right, busy show gets busier. Really glad to welcome in friend of the show at this point. John Green joins us from DJ Stable. A lot going on with John, so we thought, time to check back in with our guy from DJ Stable. John, good. What time is it? Afternoon. How are you?
Everything's going great, guys. What can be bad? I mean, it's beautiful out. We got the best racing, arguably in the entire calendar year, and Sean and I are 1,500 miles apart, so I know it's all good.
That's the best part of this, right?
Right.
We were too close to each other, standing next to each other yesterday in the paddock there. We were almost as close together as Nitrogen was to winning the Spinster Stakes with Jin beating her there by a head. Just what did you take away from that race?
I'm very proud of our filly. I'm very proud of the performance she put in. If you had told me before the race, hey, you're going to have a shot going to the turn at the top of the stretch to put away Thorpedo Anna and have a straight line to the finish line, I would have taken that 100 times out of 100. And that's no disrespect to the Grizzly Bear, to the reigning champion, because I think that she, is such an important part of our industry. But if you had told me that we'd be in front of her at the top of the stretch, I would take that in a heartbeat.
Yeah, that race, the one with Fiona earlier in the year. I mean, just how unlucky could you be in those two races?
Yeah.
Frankly, she's been incredible.
Yeah, she's 2 photo finishes from being perfect as a 3-year-old, and I hope that the takeaway from from the audience and from the voters of the Eclipse, as I lobby ahead of time, is that she's done nothing wrong. Her resume is almost impeccable. She's won the top rated races for 3-year-old fillies on the turf and the dirt. And the fact that she's a homebred of ours, really means so much to me and my dad. And, my mom, when she was alive, actually helped put together this mating of Tiffany Case to Medaglia d'Oro that got us, this wonderful filly and in nitrogen. And, I think that we've done everything we can to try to get her in a position where she should be atop the ballot, for the Eclipse Awards. But her chapter's not fully written yet. So hopefully we'll have one more big race coming up in November.
It's almost like he's talking to 2 Eclipse Award voters here.
I don't know why he would do that. Yeah,
trying to lobby us here.
Weird thing to do. Yeah.
But you mentioned probably this one more start this year coming up here in November at the Breeders' Cup. Obviously, she's been good on both surfaces, but I imagine based off the Alabama, based off of her race yesterday in the Spinster, you guys are looking at the distaff, correct?
I would have to think so. I would think that her next race is going to be on the dirt, no matter where it is, and certainly the Breeders' Cup is the one that's most probable. She has to tell us, like she's been doing her entire career. She has to tell us how she's doing, how she's feeling, and if it's if she's up to the task of going out to California and running against the best mares in the country, in the world, you can say, but really on the dirt, they're primarily in the country. And it's kind of like, okay, we took on this huge dragon in Thorpedo Anna, and we slayed her, and now we're on to the next. Oh my God, now there's a bigger dragon out there, and maybe a 2-headed dragon out in California that Bob Barford has. So I think that as a 3-year-old, she's done everything she can. I would like to see her continue to progress. Her 3 best numbers, according to buyer numbers at least, are on the dirt. And she's progressing 91, 93, and 95 in the Spinster. So I would think, guys, that I'm not breaking any news here by saying that she's going to be running on the dirt next time. And then her 4-year-old year, we are committed to running her as a 4-year-old, assuming that she's sound. And then, Mark and my dad and I will have a wonderful chess match to decide, how we're doing really race to race. I mean, she's equally adept at running well on the turf and the dirt. But I think for her next race, we're ready to take on, all comers out in California.
You mentioned the challenge that's ahead of her in California, but even though she didn't get the win yesterday, just how much confidence does that give you, knowing she, 1, ran past Thorpedo Anna on the far turn, but 2, held her own and almost beat these older fillies and mares? How much confidence does that give you?
Yeah, she shouldn't surprise me anymore. We ran her as a maiden against the boys, first time out, and she ran second. Then we ran her in a grade 1 right after that, and she hit the board again. And then as a maiden, shipped her out to California last year and ran her, and she ran 3rd in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. So we've always given her the challenges that we think that she can handle. And so far, she's gotten over every single hurdle and accomplished everything and then some that we could hope for. Like we mentioned, she's a couple of photos, a couple of head bobs away from being perfect this year. But she has been, a complete godsend for our program. And we've been doing this for 40 years. And I can, with all humility, I can say that she's the best horse we've ever had.
That race, of course, was at Keeneland, presenting this version of the podcast, hanging out with us this month. And John, you are going to be at Keeneland for a very different reason coming up here. What you all are calling a strategic reduction of DJ Stable. 23 horses up for grabs here. What's the motivation here? Why a strategic reduction at this time?
Yeah, and this started about a year and a half ago. And my dad and I try to do things a little differently than the way the industry goes, and we're trying to anticipate certain trends. And we were early on in selling horses on the digital platform. We bought a horse on the digital platform and really liked the way that we thought that could kind of dovetail into the existing paradigm of the industry. And about a year and a half ago, we sat down and we were getting frustrated because we couldn't find mares at the top end of the industry. We couldn't find value up in the upper echelon in the book 1, book 2 type of mares that could, if they were bred right, could get you summer sale horses or book 1 September horses. There was just a dearth of inventory. And we looked at it and we were very frustrated. And then we said, you know what, maybe we should be filling that gap. Maybe we should put some of our mares that are in there that are pregnant and that are ready to be, turnkey investments for people. And then my dad, to his credit, anticipated that the Big Beautiful Bill would have such tremendous advantages from a depreciation and a write-off standpoint. And I think we were seeing that play out in the yearling sales for sure. And it's actually even more advantageous to buy a pregnant mare from a tax standpoint. So, so I'm not breaking any news, but just we anticipated that this was going to happen. And we thought, we have over 40 broodmares. And it's probably time for us to reduce the herd a little bit, but we wanted to do it in a way where there was critical mass, where we're filling gaps in the top end of the market. And Keeneland, to their credit, stepped up and said, based on the inventory that you have, here are the ones that we feel like our market would really gravitate towards. And again, of the 23 mares that you mentioned, they're all pregnant. They're all pregnant on relatively early covers. And then we have another 9 horses that are coming off the racetrack that are going to be ready to be bred and have equally long and thorough commercial pedigrees.
You mentioned that Keeneland connection and them helping out with, hey, we think these are the ones that are going to produce the best at the sales for a DJ stable group. How important is that kind of relationship?
Well, it really is. And again, we're equal as far as selling and buying at the 3 major, sales companies, OBS, Fasig, and Keeneland. And when we presented the idea to Fasig and to Keeneland, both of them came in and gave us tremendous presentations. We just felt like that, the way that Keeneland has their sales set up, we could have 14 horses on one day and 17 or 18 on the other day, and have it be spread out a little bit, but still have critical mass on those 2 major days that we're selling. And just the Night of the Stars doesn't play out unless you have a superstar horse. And we are selling, actually, the first horse in the reduction that we're offering is Vixen, who's our Vekoma grade 2 winner and played second fiddle to Nitrogen for a lot of her career, unfortunately. And she's actually going to be in the Night of the Stars because we felt like that she really deserved to have that spotlight on her. But the rest of the mares and breeding stock that we're selling, again, 14 of them are going to be in book 2. The remainder are going to be on book 3. And we just felt like that it fit really well. And again, Keeneland, to their credit, did a phenomenal job of saying, these horses should be on this day. These horses should be on this day. And the marketing program and game plan that they put together for us blew me away. And I think when people come to our trademark and designated, barns, they're going to see more marketing than any of the sales companies have ever done with regard to promoting, a group of horses like the ones we have. It was really incredible.
Now, the good thing for anybody who's looking into maybe purchasing Vixen is Nitrogen's going to be off the turf now.
That's right. Thank you, Sean. I think I got to owe you a commission now for that.
That's a good job out of Sean.
Yes, I'll take a commission on that. But here in the Keeneland's November breeding stock sale here, let's dive into a couple of these mares that you're going to have available, and some of these fillies. Bullet, hip number 328 in the sale. She's coming off, she won her first 2 races, both stakes races. She's coming from the Flanders family. Just tell us a little bit about her. I know you guys are expecting her to run the stakes here pretty soon. Yeah,
and Bullet has been just a phenomenal filly for us. She won her first 2 starts for us. Both were stake races. As a matter of fact, she won the one of the inaugural Royal Palm Stakes, which means that she had full entry to run at Royal Ascot, and instead we opted to keep her here and run her here in another stake, which she won. She had a little bit of a layoff due to an injury and came back and hit the board first time out, knocking the rust off at a race in Woodbine. And is the kind of filly that normally we would look to buy. A daughter of Warfront, very athletic, early speed, great turn of foot, and like you said, from the Flanders family, which they aren't making fillies like that anymore.
John Green with us. He's from DJ's Stable. They're having a strategic reduction coming up at Keeneland in November. Hip 397. 397 will be Fate Factor, and this is in full to someone people may have heard of. Speaking of Eclipse Awards in Flightline, black type winner, comes from a strong commercial family as well.
Yeah, and again, Fate Factor is a filly of ours that comes from even before our own horse Bapio started winning graded stake races. It was Papa Cap and Papa Cat and Delicate Dynamite and that whole family. And then when we were breeding these horses, we didn't anticipate we were necessarily going to sell these individual ones. So we bred it a Flightline, and then. Is there a horse that had more of an explosive first crop than Flightline as far as the sales go? I don't think so. This is a filly that is turnkey, one cover to Flightline, going to have a nice March foal, and hopefully can ride the coattails of the other Flightlines ahead of it once they start hitting the racetrack.
And some more recent success as well too. She is in Brant's a member of this family as well, right?
Brant is in there as well. I was a little disappointed to see that Brant wasn't on any of the Breeders' Cup, but I know that they have very high expectations for him and are talking about him being possibly a Derby contender from a widely successful barn.
Would have been nice to have him get another grade 1 here this past weekend. That would help you out a little bit, right?
Yeah, I got a feeling that they were probably keeping him in the barn just so they could go ahead and bid on Fate Factor and be like, haha, look, they're nobody's fools, believe me.
Well, hey, the Breeders' Cup falls before the sale, so you got that.
Right.
Well, another one that you guys have, hip 499 here, Moonlit Garden, multiple graded stakes winning mare. She's in foal to one of my favorites, Nyquist. Her foals have sold for $250,000, $200,000. Just what are you expecting from her?
Yeah, Moonlit Garden is a little bit older. She's, a 2014 model, and but her first 2 falls, like you mentioned, sold so well, and are in the right hands. I mean, if you look in the produce record as to which programs are going into, it's the programs that you want your progeny to be brought up in. And we've bred her to Medallia, Candy Ride, Street Sense, Cody's Wish, and now Nyquist, who I think, other than not this time, arguably maybe one of the best stallions in the country. And again, a nice young son of Uncle Mo and Nyquist. And if you look at her pedigree, she herself made almost $500,000 on the racetrack, multiple graded stake winner. And there's only one dam shown on the entire page. And to me, if that doesn't show you length of a commercial family, I don't know what will. But a Malibu Moon, who I think is going to be one of the next great broodmare sires out there. Again, turnkey kind of mare.
Wonderland will be hip 274, 274 here. Medaglia d'Oro, Feely. Speaking of sires that we saw have a great summer in Medaglia d'Oro here. This is one that's interesting because of who the relations, I should say, just with a half sister to a black type winner, out of a graded stakes mare, that sort of thing. Seems like the female line on that side real strong.
It really strong and is only getting longer. I mean, only lengthening as far as what could be there right now. Is Wonderland is a half the Chopsticks, who won her first 2 starts, including a stake race. Didn't hit the board in a winning you're in over the weekend, but I know is in the right program, and they're looking to constantly improve and keep those horses going in black type races. My prediction is that if you bought a mare like Wonderland, who still, has some racing ability and some conditions herself, that you would see in another 3, 4, 5 years, you're only going to see 1 or 2 dams on that page. There's just so many well-bred fillies coming out of Miss Atlantic City and Miss Southern Miss that it's just going to naturally fill in appropriately, and you're gonna find a bargain if you were looking at a filly like this.
And then hip 266, Which Ways. This is an exciting young prospect for you guys, a stakes place mare. She was being pointed toward the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies turf before an injury. But since then, she's had a gunite filly. She's pregnant to Cogburn. We all know how fast that horse was. So a lot of speed there. When you have a young prospect like this, how exciting is that for the buyers?
Which Ways was really interesting because she was in Mark Cassie's barn. And so I would see her all the time, and I would always stop and go, okay, who's that one? Who's that? And Which Ways obviously is a daughter of Cross Traffic. We probably had the most prolific daughter of Cross Traffic in Champion Jaywalk. So the Cross Traffics are a little, I have a little soft spot in my heart for those kind of horses. But I always walked by her and just was very impressed with her presence and the way that she looked, her conformation. So when she was available to buy last year in fall to Goodnight for in the first fall, we jumped at it. She herself was stakes placed in the PG Johnson at Saratoga, during their, wonderful meet, and was really on course to run in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Filly race, got injured. They bred her to Goodnight, has a crackerjack filly that we're actually going to keep and race ourselves because we like the way that she looks. And then we wanted to continue to breed her to a little bit more speed-oriented horses, which is why we went with Cogburn, because when he was running, there was nothing faster short of a Lamborghini than Cogburn. I mean, he did it everywhere. Son of Not This Time, again, got in fall on one cover, and is just the kind of mare that I think when people buy, they're going to look out in the field and just like I did walking down the shed road, they're going to be like, who's that mare? And it's Which Ways. She's just a presence.
Now, for some people that are watching this, maybe they're getting into the sport for the first time. We've mentioned quite a few of kind of these top stallions that you guys decided to breed to. Just how important is the decision into picking the right stallion, especially when you're looking at the sales market now, getting that commercial stallion to make sure that they sell well?
Sean, that's a great question. I think that's one of the hardest things that we have to do as breeders is decide, who we're going to breed our mare to. And there's so many components that go into it from, has the stallion, is it a first-year stallion, second-year stallion, third-year stallion? Are there going to be discounts accordingly? How many foals were in the previous 2 crops? What kind of stud fee was the horse standing for then? Meaning, what kind of mares were being bred to those stallions? And then probably more importantly for me is the physical component. And the horse doesn't have to be picture perfect, conformed and good looking like Louie is. Okay. I don't need to see that. I need to see something that's going to match up well with my mare. So if my mare, in Which Ways' case, was a big strapping mare and maybe needed a little bit of foot speed, that's why I was glad to see she was bred to Goodnight, and then we bred her to Cogburn, because hopefully you're going to see that the foals are going to be able to take, Papa's attributes and add them to an already good-looking mama in this example in Which Ways. So I think there's all those components that they get involved. And then the other thing that we like to look at also is what other programs are breeding and supporting these stallions. Because it used to be where, horses would be syndicated, 40 shareholders would have it, and then they were the ones that were you knew if a stallion was going to have a chance because of the shareholders. It's not that way anymore because, obviously stallions are getting bred to so many more mares. So we try to take kind of a straw poll and get an idea of which programs are breeding to those stallions. And do they race, or are they strictly looking commercial and they're going to spin the horses and let them sell for whatever they sell for? So there's a lot of other nuanced components that go into it. And hopefully when you look at these mares that we have that are pregnant, the due diligence and homework that we've gone through and built a successful breeding program because of that formula.
What if the opposite person is listening right now, John, and they've been in the game a long time, would like to buy one of these horses? Where should they go for more information?
Well, certainly you can go on the Keeneland website and look it up. We actually have the Petty Geek herself, Ren Carruthers, doing summaries that we're going to be putting out every day on social media, so you can get a summary of what's going on in the family, an analysis of the genetics of it all, and look into each of those entries accordingly. And then, of course, I'm on the Rail Talk podcast, so you can certainly get in touch with me on that platform. But the main thing is that the horses are going to be there on the grounds for almost 5 straight days. So you're going to have ample time to go and look and talk. And TaylorMade is actually dedicated team members of theirs that are going to be in DJ Stable outfits in the maroon and white. And those are the point people. So you can ask, hey, I saw that this mare skipped a year. Was that because something was wrong, or because she was just being bred to an infertile stallion? Why is there a gap? Or you guys raised the yearling that sold for $400,000. How is that doing? There's going to be people all throughout the TaylorMade consignment that they can ask for information and really kick the tires for a good period of time before diving in and making a decision. But I couldn't be happier with Keeneland and our association with them on this, and TaylorMade as well. And I look forward to seeing people out there the first week in November.
Final piece of information we need from you. I heard somewhere that you guys are going to be raffling off nitrogen for free to whoever ends up winning that raffle. Could you just tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, Sean, I hadn't heard that, so I'll have to get more information. We don't use that four-letter word "free" around here. So I know that's definitely coming from from the TDN or something like that. That's just false reporting.
We call the sport of free for a reason. That's exactly right. Yeah, all right. Well, he's John Green. He's out there at DJ Stable. We appreciate him jumping on again with us here on BloodHorse Monday. John, I'm sure we'll see you down there at the sale and all of the things, but all the best. And thanks again for jumping on.
I look forward to it, guys. And thank you again. Thank you most for saying I'm a friend of the show. I really genuinely appreciate that. And I love what you guys are doing.
I appreciate it very much. There you go. Thanks, John. There you go. So John Green, DJ Stable. That was a really roundabout way to say that he would never send me to the breeding shed. I mean, that's what he just did. I mean, I don't even know. Like, he's like, he looks perfect, but we're not going.
Yeah, we don't
need that. Yeah, that's not the stop.
We don't need to be. You might look
brutal,
perfect. I don't know. I don't
this
know how
show's getting brutal for me. I'll tell you what, it's not good, man. It's not good. I'm getting replaced every week. John's saying I'm not worthy of the shed row. It's ridiculous.
I know. Yeah.
Like,
well, I mean, to be fair, I don't know how well your racing record is.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
I'm not sure you have the credentials to come in.
I was the kid who ran,
but not the.
I ran cross country to play a winter sport. I was that guy. Yes, that was the best just to try to get into shape for whatever we were doing in the winter. That's exactly right. Oh man, but gosh almighty. A bunch of great information there. It's the thing about this show, Sean, that has caught me the most off guard is how much I enjoy talking breeding and sales.
Yeah.
I did not know that I was going to enjoy it as much as we have been able to do it.
Well, it's been such a good year at the sales, especially looking at the yearling market and all that excitement and we talked with Frank about this a couple of episodes, all that excitement that's building in the yearling market, that's translating to the 2-year-old sales. And then that's going to end up translating here into the broodmare side of things. And we just talked to John about all those stallions that these mares are pregnant to, a lot of the big name stallions. People are going to look at that. They're going to see Flightline as, there's going to be a flight. Yeah. They're going to see Flightline, Cogburn, Nyquist, that this foal is going to be born in a couple months. And then they can either race them or turn them around and sell them themselves.
And I appreciate John, by the way, too, just upfront about the economics of this too.
Yeah.
Right. I just we don't have to pretend about this. Right. I mean, bills come out at the federal level and they're good for this. Okay, great. Let's take advantage. Let's be ahead of it. Right. And so I think that part is appreciated the candor there, because I do think, look, this is a good time for us to sell these horses. So we're going to do it. It makes sense to me. So there you go.
Exactly.
The QE2 this weekend.
Yes.
At Keeneland. It's always an interesting spot, right? This close to the, no, but seriously, this close to the Breeders' Cup. Right?
Yeah.
Very difficult turnaround, especially when you have to travel as far as these horses would have to travel. But just as a race, how prestigious is this for you as far as the racing at Keeneland? This to me is way at the top of the list for some reason.
This is up there.
I don't know why, but it is. It's way at the top.
It's one of those races.
It might be because of the list of winners. It's always very good.
Yeah. And I think it's one of those races where I've gained more respect for it over the last couple of years, being like actually attending the race, than I did beforehand, like before I moved out to Kentucky, because when you think about it, a lot of the 3-year-old fillies, just because the way that the filly mares set up at the Breeders' Cup, where you're going to obviously have to be facing older horses, you're going to have to be facing the Europeans shippers, coming in,
maybe Japanese horse or something.
Japanese horses, I'm sure will be coming, and so you're going to have to face all that. For some of these 3-year-olds, you don't want to take on that challenge yet. You're looking at maybe next year. So this is kind of like the end of the year championship, I feel like, for the 3-year-old filly turf horses. This is a race I'm sure if Nitrogen had not been as successful as she was in the Alabama, she would be in this race for sure. And had she not made that switch over to the dirt, but it's really become, and sometimes you do see the winner of this race come out and run back in the Breeders' Cup and run very well in the Breeders' Cup. And I think that's probably why it's gained some prestige, is because the ones that have actually come out of this race and ran in the Breeders' Cup have performed pretty well.
And Moira won both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
She's absolutely. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So no, it's one of those, you and I are very similar on this, actually, where it has grown in prestige in my mind over the years, because I know like you just said, the condition is limited, but the field is always great.
Yes.
It's always great. And you get a certain number, in the same way that we're now watching, the Jessamine, every starter except one made their last start at Kentucky Downs.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. In the Jessamine. Okay. That is a massive change in the world. Okay. But this race, because of its time after Kentucky Downs, sets up that way as well, where if you've got a good turf, filly in this area, go run at KD, come up and run at Keeneland, and you're
Yeah.
going to go for about a month and a half. That's right.
Yeah, it's a good little two race schedule there for you. You get all that lucrative purse money down there at Kentucky Downs, and you come up and you get the grade 1 here at Keeneland. Then if you're looking at end of the year and talking about the sale and the breeding stock sale, you could then transition those 2 race schedule into the sale right after.
Right. I want to ask a trainer in the middle of November, did the irrigation system at Kentucky Downs make that more like the running surface of many other tracks? And so horses coming out of there are much, much more ready to go. Because in that Jessamine, it was dominated by horses from Kentucky Downs.
Yeah.
Dominated. And they all looked very comfortable going flat ground. So I would love to know if that irrigation, just enough of a change of the surface that it was a little less taxing on the horses coming out of there.
That's an interesting question.
And then it wouldn't be, it's the undulations and the hills. And no, it's a good surface and let's go run. I think we're going to find out in November. I think because that stat about leaving Kentucky Downs and going to a Breeders' Cup in California is ugly. It's like over $1 billion. And that could change this year, I think.
Yeah.
I think they're like a Wimbledon Hawkeye or something like that could end up.
Well, and we're seeing the Jessamine being a good example.
Yep.
We're just seeing that the quality of horses running at Kentucky Downs is much better than it was just 5 years ago. And so now, and like we saw this year where I felt like we played a little bit, the Kentucky Downs meet played a little bit more to form this year. And you started to see kind of, the horses that were supposed to run well were running well. And so I think that's maybe a sign that, that's just the talent level. But then, as you said, maybe it has to do with the track to where it's not playing like more of the other tracks. Now we're going to start seeing kind of the wider success of these Kentucky Downs horses as they come over to Keeneland, as they, the ones that stay in Kentucky when we switch back over to Churchill for some of those graded stakes races next month. And then obviously the Breeders' Cup as well.
Wherever you're watching this, by the way, make sure you check us out during Breeders' Cup week. Tuesday evening, I'll be hosting a handicapping seminar ahead of the Breeders' Cup that will go out over the BloodHorse channel. So make sure you are tuned in for that. Sean and I will be out west. You will catch us right here on this platform Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. We will do spot hits from out there at Del Mar, keep you up to date on everything that's going on. We'll have some special guests out there as well. So if you are interested in hanging out with us, make sure you are tuned in for all of those events. If you happen to be in Louisville, you can join us at Martini Italian Bistro on that Tuesday before the Breeders' Cup for the seminar. Of course, we always encourage you to check out the magazine at bloodhorse.com. Click the magazine tab at the top, or if you're watching right now, it's at the bottom of the screen with the QR code. So if you're on YouTube or Spotify right now, go ahead and check it out. Get that shipped straight to your house. You can even get, speaking of the Keeneland sale, get that stallion registry sent to your house as well. I think if you are a horse racing geek, that's a Sunday afternoon, sit down, beer outside.
Yep.
Read the stallion registry.
Exactly.
You'll
enjoy it.
It sounds ridiculous, but trust me, once you
open it up, you're
I know
like,
that
wow.
guy. I know him. I know him. There you go. So they'll go check those things out for sure. Well, thanks to everyone who joined us today. An incredible group of folks today. Am I going to say his name correctly here, do you think?
We'll see.
Ned Toffey.
Yes. Good
How
job.
about that? Brendan Walsh.
Yep.
John Green.
Mm-hmm.
Not Gondreen. We won't do that to him.
Is that the name of the next horse?
Get it done, John. We'll see you next week on BloodHorse Monday. The BloodHorse is dedicated to the improvement of thoroughbred breeding and racing for over 100 years. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and save BloodHorse Monday on all your platforms. For the latest news, analysis, and insights, visit us at bloodhorse.com.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.